At Iowa, if the defense got a pick, we called that a sudden change. On the Washed Up Walkons podcast, when the Wi-Fi goes out and you have to re-record the episode, we call that a sudden change as well. Luckily, you guys got 3 Washed Up Walkons who know how to deal with a sudden change. It's October 25th, 2018. Everybody, let's have a day. Let's go. Welcome into the Washed Up Walkons podcast. You are listening to episode 4.2. We tried this last night and it didn't go so well. We had some technical difficulties. Again, we're going to try and make this as good as we can. We're on a limited budget. As I said last week, you can donate to us on our Anchor page, and you can donate to me directly at Tyler Kluver on Venmo. That's not being greedy, but if we want to make this better, there is a monetary component in it, and we're already making a couple improvements because of the few donations we have had, and we thank you guys very much for that. But yeah, we're going to continue to make this as good as we can. Crazy that some of you already donated. I'll read the short list so far. We're very thankful for you guys doing this. This is incredible. Mitch A., Chris L., Andy M., Jeff G., Sarah R., Jesse D., and the man himself, Marty McFly Hopkins, who texted us today and said that we fucked up his day because the episode didn't come out in the morning. We're sorry about that, Marty. Again, like we said, it's Bo's fault, kind of, not really.
Anyway.
Yeah, last night I teased that we were gonna have a special guest. It was Bo Bauer. I had an incredible intro for him. We had it all teed up, and then technicality came into play and really screwed us over. So we're doing this for a second time. Me and Kevin will try to make this as authentic and not like we're doing it the second time, but we did, again, talk about all this stuff last night. We're adding Drake to the picture. Obviously, from last week's episode, you guys know that Drake adds a interesting piece to this puzzle. So hopefully we get a little bit of different product than we did last night, and we have some fun. But yeah, this is episode 4. There's a lot to talk about. I can't promise you guys anything on the energy side. Drake is jet lagged. I have been running around. Kevin just got done with the interview. We live real lives, and now we're shoving a podcast into Thursday because we do care about getting this out. We've had fucking insane response from this thing. I've done like 5 or 6 radio interviews. I went on live radio, 1460 KXNO, on Monday night here in Des Moines. For any of you that are local to Des Moines, you might have heard me talk about us over there. Had an article come out from Mike Loss. So many things, and it's been incredible. I'm going to try and stop talking because I'm starting to annoy myself. There's just a lot to talk about. It's crazy. One last thing, and I'll let Kevin and Drake take over because I know for a fact that you guys like them more than me. We said our first episode, we had 1,200 listeners in the week before the next episode came out. In week 2, episode 2 had 1,800. We, at the time of recording this last night, which is kind of what the standard was before we had to do it a day late, we were at 5,700 listens on episode 3, which is actually insane. The fact that even if a couple of those are duplicate listens because people got bored waiting for the next episode, that's incredible. 5,000 people listening to us talk to our computers about just Iowa football and having a good time. It's incredible. And that 5,000 number did have a little significance. Drake eventually will be posting a picture of himself in a Speedo, for better or worse. I'm super excited about it. I don't know if he is, but we're men of our words, and for some reason last week we declared that would be the case. We hit 5,000. That's going to happen. Look for that at some point. Okay, Kevin and Drake.
It's kind of
I'm out
probably
of
gonna
breath.
make a few people really happy and some people very unhappy. But you
Yeah.
know what? It's gonna make Drake unhappy, so that makes me happy.
That
That's a
sounds about
pretty
right.
sick thing to say, Kevin, but you're right.
Yeah.
I am fairly unhappy that I have to show my fat ass in a Speedo to everybody who wants to look.
It's a tough one. So let's kick this off. I'm already out of breath. I hate this. I love it because I get to talk about how much you guys are supporting the podcast, but now I literally am breathing hard. I'm that out of shape. The Maryland game. Iowa played Maryland, obviously 23-0, right?
26.
Yes.
26-0. We had some field goals in there from Miguel Racinos. Balling in the wind. Tweeted about that. Very hard to do special teams in the wind. Hard to throw the ball in the wind. I think that was somewhat evident in the statistics. Not that Maryland is very good or does a lot of throwing the ball anyway. And so they're pretty good at running the ball, but the Hawkeyes did a decent job at stifling that. What are your guys'
Decent
thoughts?
is one way to put it.
Yeah.
I think they ran. I think I saw a stat that they ran 3 plays on the plus side of the field in the entire game. I guess somebody could maybe fact check that for me, but
I think you're right.
if that's the truth, then that is absolutely incredible. Like to hold a team, not only to just not let them score, but like to not even let them cross the 50. That is just absolutely bullying them.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
A lot of people don't like to watch games where it's like it was not an interesting game by any means. Like Iowa was in control the entire time, but I fucking loved it. Like we just imposed our will on them. Like like you said, they came in with like one of the like best rushing attacks in the entire country. Like how?
We're just losing Kevin.
Like
I don't know where he's
how?
going.
Like we literally shut that shit down.
There he goes.
So quickly.
I'm gonna have to cut this.
I think like their first run got out the gate for like 12 yards.
Yeah,
we made a quick adjustment, and
you can hear
Kevin. They didn't have anything going forward. Yeah, like you said, they had 3 plays across the 50. They ran 39 total plays. Our defense played half a game basically. They only had 39 snaps. Like that is absolute dominance, and I absolutely loved watching it.
Yeah, it's I mean, we talked about this last night when we recorded the first time, but it's essentially like the defense got another bye week. I mean, it's incredible how much better you feel based on play count. And the defense is going to be feeling real good. I don't think the offense is going to be feeling too bad either. I mean,
they controlled the game, and that was probably like our best like just controlling of a game that we've played the entire year. And that makes playing defense so much easier when you only have to play for 39 snaps. Like the offense had the ball for 40 minutes. Like that's ridiculous.
It's actually insane.
It was 40 plus minutes.
Yeah. I saw something like they had 130 total yards. Is that what they had?
It was something like that. Yeah, I know. My favorite part of the game was the last drive where Maryland had like 90 total yards, like with like 2-3 minutes left in the game, I think it was. And Phil Parker still sending out the starters out there because I guarantee he did not want them to get over 100 total yards.
Yeah, that, and he wanted 0 points because shutouts in college football, I don't care how bad or good a team is, they are so hard to do because at some point, if you're winning by that much, 35, like in an old fashioned shutout, 35-0, at some point you're putting in your second, third strings, and you're not putting your starters back in to save the shutout. So, I mean, that's incredibly hard to do. The Hawks are rolling, right? So and we're going to get into this when we talk about Penn State later, but the hype that's building up for this game is huge. You can feel it. It's just like the Wisconsin game. You can feel it coming. Man, it's going to be exciting in a couple days because I think it's going to be a hell of a game, honestly. Last night we were kind of talking. You'll hear my thoughts on the spread later, but my mind has started to shift a little bit. I think I'm gaining more confidence as the days go on in the Hawkeyes, and I think that's good.
Yeah,
The forecast came out, and it's like 100% chance of rain,
Yeah.
with a little bit of a breezy and cold conditions. I think that
Mhm.
favors us immensely because we have a great run game and we have a great run defense, and that's
Yeah.
the kind of game that's going to be. It's going to be a little bit like a Maryland 2.0 type of game.
Yeah.
So I think that really, really favors us.
If the game comes down to them running the ball a bunch, and it depends on how well we can stop that, I would be 100% okay with that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, let's get into more into the Penn State game later. Let's move forward. You want to talk about this Michigan State Michigan madness, right?
Yeah. We got a couple things to talk about. We're gonna do Q&A. I didn't ask for questions this week because we've had so many come in that I didn't want to keep missing some of the good ones. So we're gonna use ones from weeks past. We'll talk about Penn State at the end, right after Q&A, and before Q&A, we're going to talk about a couple things that happened in the Big Ten this weekend. First off, the Michigan State drama that went down, and the kind of all the bullshit that went on before that game. Just super disrespectful by Michigan's guy, like cleating the middle of the field, like stomping on it, like kicking up the grass. I don't. It still blows my mind, even after we talked about it on the first recording of this. It still blows my mind how some 20, 21-year-old adult, because you're not a kid. I mean, you're an adult as far as decision making goes. And how do you bring yourself to make a conscious decision to make you and yourself and your family and your program and your teammates and your coaches, how do you do that? How do you bring that negative attention to how? It's so
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you right there. That was one of the most ridiculous things that I've seen in college football in the past 5 years. Like,
yeah, for sure.
how it processes through your head that this will be a cool thing to do or this is an okay thing to do. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, kid? Like, you're a kid. You're 21 years old, like we said. Like, this guy's an NFL prospect, and you're doing that bullshit, just cleaning up the middle of the field. You're throwing a temper tantrum like a freaking 2-year-old. Like, are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine like what our coaches would say about that. Like, I couldn't look at them in the eye if I had done something like that.
Yeah, Drake, I heard what you said. The small part of me liked it too. I love the fire for the rivalry. I love the competitiveness. There's other ways to go about it though, like even just talking shit like pregame out on the field, but don't like make it.
Yeah, I mean, no one no one has a problem with it getting a little chirpy before the game, talking a little smack here and there, getting the energy levels up. No one has a problem against that, but like, you just look like such an asshole to do that.
Yeah,
like, such an asshole.
Yeah, but I think it was a total, try an intimidation. Fuck, you're gonna have to cut this.
You got intimidated by that? He's throwing
no.
tantrum.
Hold on, I gotta restart with this thought. In an attempt to intimidate the Michigan team, Michigan State walked hand in hand across the field and swept their field. Well, as a player, if I'm on the field, I'm not getting off the field just for them to be able to go and do this bullshit and pretty much just act like they're going to come in and walk right over us. I would have done the exact same thing as Devin Bush and stood right in the middle of the field and not let them walk through, because I think that's absolute bullshit. So if they want to go and try and do that, then I am going to screw it up, because I'm not backing down from anybody. And I mean, if that starts a fight, it starts a fight.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Michigan State's not blameless. Like, they had their scheduled thing and they were late to it, so there's some Michigan guys out there, and
yeah,
they're dicks
I
for that.
definitely,
That's for sure.
I definitely think there's a two-way go here. Like, there's nobody that's innocent in this, but I just,
To retaliate like that, like, oh, I'm gonna smash up the middle of their logo. They'll get them.
yeah,
Me, bro.
you can do it in a different way. And what it was brought back to was, a couple of people asked on Twitter, like, what would happen if a guy on Iowa did that?
He's not.
And
He's not
yeah,
playing.
he's not playing that day. He's maybe not playing for a couple games. He, depending on where he's at in the program and who it was, you may never hear from him again. If he's already riding a line, but before even all of that comes into play, Iowa doesn't recruit the kind of people that would do something like that. And you're not 100% recruiting, but once the kids get here, you establish a culture and a way of doing things, and a matter of respect towards your opponents that would never elicit that kind of response from a guy that went to Iowa, ever. It would never happen. The coaches would never allow it.
Like, that shit
Yeah.
gets shut down real quick, and if you don't make a behavior change, like, you weed out. Like, that's, it's
Yeah.
absolutely unthinkable for an Iowa football player to put on that kind of behavior performance.
Yeah, it would never happen. That's about it. I mean, it's funny because the kid's name is Devin Bush, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Devin Bush.
And it's Bush League. Like, that's the kind of, like, quote unquote, that's Bush League. I think it speaks to culture issue, obviously, within Michigan.
Yeah. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier about, like, they get national level recruits. They get guys who are, like, athletically have been handed everything to them. Like, they have absolute natural God-given talent. And, sometimes guys like that, they think they can do whatever the fuck they want. And
Yeah.
like, that's just so foreign to what we preach at Iowa. And that's probably why Michigan has been underachieving for the past, I don't know how many years. Like, they're having a good year finally, but that culture is built on an absolutely shitty foundation.
Yeah, I would agree. I do think there's a big culture issue at Michigan with Harbaugh, and it clearly shows by their underperformance. I think that was a really good point.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad coach, X's and O's. I think he's a bad coach in the fact that he comes from the NFL. In the NFL, everybody's playing for, not everybody, but a lot of guys are playing for the check. They're playing for the money. The culture is not so much a thing as it is in college football. And I don't think Harbaugh knows how to create a good college culture. I just don't think he does.
He's a weird fucking guy, man. He's a
Yeah.
weird fucking guy. So when he used to coach at Stanford, he was recruiting my brother, and my brother's in his office. He's like, I want to see how big you are. Go stand in that doorway. He's just a weird fucking guy.
Shit.
He slept over at a recruit's house, like in his room with him.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know why you want to play for a weird fucker like that.
I don't know. Here's the other thing. I think I don't think, obviously they look at it and they're like, oh, Michigan is a bunch of assholes. But I mean, you can't speak for everybody. I guarantee there's guys on the Michigan sideline that don't agree with what Bush did. And I would be very interested to see how his relationship with the rest of the team was affected by that. Because I know that not all the guys on Michigan are like that. There's good guys on Michigan. Like there's probably some really good humans on Michigan's football team. And like I want to know if it would be very fascinating to know if anything was said to him player to player, or kind of what the talk was, or a lot of the times it would be hush hush, kind of behind Bush's back, because I think he is one of the older leader players. So I don't know it, but all of that creates a very bad culture, like I said. And I would I don't again they're gonna fall off. Kevin, you said last night in the first recording to book it that Michigan will lose. What'd you say?
I don't know. I just know that they're not going to be there in the playoff discussion at the end.
Yeah,
That's my take.
yeah, they'll underachieve by the end of this year at some point.
I'm not.
They still have to
exactly
go
sure they have
to
left
the
on
shoe and
schedule.
play Ohio State. So
Yeah, here's what I would love. I would love to see 10. I would love to see, I mean, depending on how Wisconsin shakes out in the rest of the West, I'd love to see Iowa win the West and Michigan win the East, and then all of that shit catch up to Michigan in the Big Ten championship, and Iowa versus Michigan in Indianapolis. I would
just remember that there would be some bad blood from Michigan, though. That's one of those matchups where they are going to be coming with everything they have.
at that point. Hawks are in the Big Ten championship again. I say bring it. I
I would
say bring it.
love nothing more than to absolutely shit all over another Michigan Wolverine season. That would make
Yeah.
me so fucking happy.
100% agree. That would be incredible. But I mean, either way it shakes out, if Iowa makes it to the Big Ten championship, they're either playing Ohio State or Michigan, and that's
Yeah.
it. And we completely shit on each of their seasons in
The
consecutive
last 2 years. Yeah.
And I think I may have accidentally or intentionally given Ohio State some bulletin board material. So uh, I actually think that because the wounds may be a little more healed on Michigan side, they might not come out as hot as Ohio State.
Right. So
Drake,
in
that was a few days after, and you were in pretty clear state of mind. How accidental was that body bags comment, actually?
It was unintentional. I had no intention of bringing it up, but one of the reporters brought up the fact that I captioned a picture that I put on social media in all uppercase letters, body bags. And I thought it was funny at the time, and I still think it's funny.
I
But
do too.
when I saw the video of myself saying it and realized just how bad I was going to get ripped for it, I immediately went into like cleanup mode and
Yeah.
started talking to all these reporters again and asking them to please take that down and delete that. And that was a lapse in judgment. So it was an accident, but I don't take it back because we absolutely put those clowns in a body bag.
Yeah, we did put them in body bags. They were. I'll never forget the looks on their faces when they I don't know when it was. It might have been right after the polecat, because that was when we went up 3 possessions, and they true 100% pure quit. They just quit. They didn't want any part of it anymore. They wanted to go home.
Yep.
Which leads us into the next topic before we get into Q&A, is they just did it again. They did the same thing. They went into Purdue, West Lafayette, just a not a good place, really. They have maybe one of the worst hotels that we stayed in consistently.
Yeah.
And Purdue in the all-black unis, just like Iowa, they took down Ohio State with authority, not just end of the game fluke or a couple points. They actually smacked the Buckeyes in the mouth.
They
And
drug 'em. For 4 quarters, they just completely drug them up and down the field.
fun to see, right?
I think
was
all
incredible.
seeing, Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes get their asses kicked.
Here's what I like is everyone wants to talk about how how the East and the West are so vastly different. And when stuff like that happens, though it doesn't close the gap completely, it makes headway. It brings us ever so much closer together.
Yeah, I was actually looking at a stat earlier. I think the East versus the West this year, like the East only is up like one game.
Yeah, I saw a stat over like the last 5 years, and it was like 43-39 head to head. We're only like 4 games back or something like that. And then everyone's like, "Oh well, Rutgers is helping out the West there, yada yada." Well, Illinois and Purdue aren't doing
Yeah,
the West.
we're dragging Nebraska's ass over here. I don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah, so it's not. I mean, you can. I think the general public gets very caught up in, and granted, sometimes it's warranted. Ohio State and Michigan are fantastic teams all the time. Yes, they have the talent, but how good are they as a football team? That level, or at least what people think, is always raised a couple points from what they actually are, just because of the narrative that gets played with the Big Ten. Iowa, pretty consistently. Wisconsin, every year. They're right there. They're right there. And if Purdue starts, Purdue's been on the rise a little bit. Like if depending on what Purdue does the rest of the season, they've got players, they've got a coach. Who knows how long the coach will be there? But I mean, the gap is not as far as people think it is. I don't think.
Not at all. That is a program on the rise, and they are like in a very quick ascension.
Yeah, the job that Fromm has done ever since he's come in, like it was noticeable right away. Like his first season was last year. Like we knew, like when they were coming to Kinnick to play us, that we were playing a very confident team that had a lot of energy and was well coached, and he's carried it on ever since. They had a slow start to the beginning of this year, but they've got like one of the best offenses in the Big Ten without a doubt.
Yeah, they have the best freshman in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
They have maybe the best player in the Big Ten.
The best freshman in the country, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's in the he's up there, regardless
He's an
of how
absolute superstar.
Yeah, I watched him play a little bit versus somebody earlier in the year. I think maybe their first Big Ten game. I don't know. He's a guy that you're just gonna. He reminded me of an NFL player, kind of the way he moved, and he'll be in the league. He's got insane athleticism. He's very aware of the field. What's his name? Rondale Moore. Rondale.
Yeah. He reminds me of Tyreek Hill.
Yes. He's not that fast. No one's that
But
fast.
I also don't think that one-dimensional. You know what I mean? Like he's a 600-pound squatter, so like he is a powerful dude.
He's strong as hell. He does it all for them. When the Hawks play Purdue, I mean that's going to be a hell of a game too, because we go to Purdue, right?
Yep, we go to Purdue.
So,
and it's going to be a great atmosphere because those people are absolutely pumped about their newfound success.
Yeah, I know earlier we used to kind of shit on the Purdue away game atmosphere, but it's kind of changed in the last couple of years, and we haven't been back since. So,
right. I mean, and it's only going to continue to get better as their team gets better. They're doing pretty interesting stuff over there. But yeah, he's one of the best in the country. David Blau is a good quarterback. I've watched him play. He's not bad. Like
it's crazy. He didn't even win the starting quarterback job in his senior year coming out of camp. Like he had the injury last year and wasn't able to play for, a majority of the season. And now they were in this QB competition, and Elijah Sindelar actually won the job in camp and came out and played extremely poorly early in the year and got replaced. And David Blau took the exact same team and just ran with it. So it shows that they clearly made a mistake naming their quarterback initially, but it looks like they've got it figured out now.
Yeah, they're a team to be reckoned with right now. You can.
And it only makes the West.
Just drug Ohio State, like you said, all 4 quarters, and that was awesome to see. We kind of talked about this earlier. Like Ohio State is not a team that likes to play in gritty games. Like they're
Yeah.
runners, and we saw like how like a team that's just built on talent and not on toughness can get absolutely just exposed on national TV. And
Yeah.
every person in the United States of America that isn't a Buckeye fan absolutely fucking loved it because no one
Yeah.
is like, oh, the Buckeyes are my second favorite team. Like you have those teams out there, like you don't mind, they win. You kind of see like no one's second team is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They fucking are like one of the most hated teams in the country. So I think everyone loved seeing that game last night or last week. And also, awesome story about Tyler Trent. I think that was one of the cooler things to see this entire year out of all of college football.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely. And the
yeah.
fact that he said that, his biggest wish was to come watch Purdue beat Ohio State, and then it actually happens in that fashion. It's,
Yeah.
it just gives you chills thinking about how special that is.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes college football so awesome, man.
Yeah. Pretty. It seems that those stories always happen. Like somehow, some way, the world turns in a funny way and makes it happen. It's pretty cool. So we'll move on to some Q&A. And the first one is a really good topic. I wish this is one of the parts from last night when we recorded this the first time that I wish we had back because I think we killed about 9 or 10 minutes of this last night, but we'll try and kill another 9 and 10 minutes right now. The first question comes from Taylor Fox on Twitter, and it was, what are your guys' advice for future walk-ons to the University of Iowa program? And I said, we could write a book about this, but we'll try and shorten it up for you a little bit, give you some general points. Either you want to take that one and kind of run with it a little bit?
I'll let Kevin go first since he's already had a run at this. I figure he's got it all prepped up.
Yeah, sure. So you decided to walk on at the University of Iowa. Good choice, because we fucking love our walk-ons. In a few years, you can come join us on the Washed Up Walk-Ons, and you can be a guest. Anyway, advice. You're going to have to work your fucking balls off, man. You start on the bottom of a shit pile, and you got to crawl your way out of it. It really comes down to making a great first impression, showing up in the weight room, showing up as a guy who's going to compete, and you got to establish yourself as a guy to be taken seriously. Like we said earlier, like scholarship guys, walk-on guys, they're treated the same as long as you put forth the same amount of effort and the same amount of performance as the guys who are on scholarship. So it really comes down to coming to work with an attitude that you're going to be the hardest working guy right there, and you're going to be the guy that's you're going to outwork everyone. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's
And
simple, but it's not easy.
I would say that if you choose to walk on at Iowa and that is the path that you're going to take for yourself, you have to make sure that you come in with the walk on mentality. And that's something that you will learn quickly. And it's not something that's force fed to you, but it's just it's an idea or a set of ideals that you'll pick up very quickly when you get into the program, that you have to make sure that you outwork everybody because you started with a little bit of a disadvantage because these guys are recruited and there's coaches' jobs on the line because they recruited them. And so if you're going to get on the field, it has to be because you truly, truly earned it and nobody can argue with it through your performance. And so you just have to get there. And from day one, from Jump Street, you have to make sure that you grind and do everything to the best of your ability. And you have to bring it every day because if you start to slack, or if you start to maybe get a little bit comfortable and feel like, oh, I got this, I'm in good shape now, it's going to catch up to you because you're not the guy that's supposed to be playing, but you're going to have the opportunity to play. So you have to make sure you take absolute advantage of all your opportunities.
For sure. This kind of speaks to, and this is almost to a T, how you guys made your way into the roles that you ended up in. Coach Doyle, one of the things Coach Doyle says all the time is, well, I guess everybody in the program, is when Coach Ferentz came in 1999 to start his time as the head coach at the University of Iowa, he wanted to focus on two things: strength and conditioning and special teams. And those 2 points essentially are the exact two things that you need to focus on as a walk-on. You can control your effort in the weight room and how you eat and what goes into your body and how it recovers and all that. And you can become, under the guidance of Coach Doyle and his staff, an animal. Drake and Kevin both are, well, they're beat up, half broken animals now, but
Hey. Come on.
I mean, Kevin did send me a video of him deadlifting 500 the other day, straight bar. Drake took a couple dings, but Drake's still strong as hell too. Both these guys became animals as far as strength conditioning goes. They might not look like Sean Oakman, like that guy he was on Baylor a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, like Sean Oakman.
300 pounds. But the functionality of them, what Doyle can turn you into, is insane. If you looked at Brady Ross on the street, you would not think much. But boy, can that guy go. He can squat a house, maybe literally a house. And he plays with relentless effort. And it's just, what can you turn yourself into physically? And then where are you going to do that? It's going to be on special teams. Very rarely is a walk-on just going to get thrust into a starting spot. It's Division I football. It's very tough to do. So special teams is an area where things are a little bit simplified. You have one job on one play that comes up, every 10 to 15 plays in a game, and you can give all out effort and get your feet wet on the field, and you can go make a name for yourself. Both Kevin and Drake, they busted their ass in the weight room, and they both showed up on special teams early in our career. As early as 2015, our third year in the program, Kevin is playing all four special teams. Drake is already rising the depth chart at fullback. And were you playing all four special teams?
No, I was playing between 2 and 3.
2 and 3, yeah. I mean, they were both. I mean, and then eventually you just keep working, and there you are at the top of the depth chart. But it doesn't just happen. You have to. It's almost inexplainable the effort you're going to have to give and the level of commitment that you're going to have to take with this goal of being successful, but it's worth it. It's 100%
Yeah, with all that being
it.
said, it is 100% worth it. And I know, speaking for myself, and I can speak with conviction for both of you, that neither of you guys would have had it any other way, and you wouldn't have done this any other way if you were given another opportunity.
I mean, my life, I'm almost scared to think of how undisciplined or unmotivated in life I might be without the last 5 years under the program of Coach Ferentz and Coach Doyle. Those two men have absolutely shaped the way I think about things forever, and I'm thankful for that. They demand excellence, and they demand 100% effort, and a lot of the time you just have to do what's right. You just do what's right, and you do what you're told, and you're consistent about it, and things work out. The other thing that I think is a huge thing is if you can just, as an 18-year-old kid, when you walk into the program, somehow convince yourself that because it's almost true, the path is proven. There's 3 guys talking right here that have proven it, and there's many more. Some who we graduated with, and others around in older classes. If you do what you're told and you stick it out, you will be successful. Not just in football, but in life. Like, you're gonna be successful. It's gonna do amazing things for you. But I think that the easiest way to put it is it's a simple path, but it's not an easy path.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. We can pretty much end the topic there by saying that it is simple and that the blueprint is there for you, but it is in no way, shape, or form easy. But when you do it, you're going to feel a great sense of accomplishment, and you're truly going to be proud of yourself and your brothers that you went to war with for 5 years.
Yeah. That being said, you got it a whole lot better than they used to, because our freshman year, we were still paying for meals, and it was only 4 meals a week. And nowadays, all the walk-ons get free meals just like everybody else, and it's 2 times a day. So congratulations, you were born at a great time.
Absolutely.
Which brings back memories. I miss Gray's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Pete.
Gray's is a downtown restaurant in Iowa City. For those of you that aren't local to Iowa City, Pete and Kim Harmon are just absolute legends. And Kim listens to the podcast. She listened to the first podcast. She commented on Facebook about it.
Oh,
Hey, Kim, I love you.
Miss you.
Yeah, we love you both. And we miss your food. I had mac and cheese for lunch right before we recorded this. So
I had Cheerios and a banana. So we're just not meeting the level of quality of Gray's.
But we are meeting the level of quality of Washed Up, which is what this is all about.
That's right. How about question number 2?
That was an 11-minute question, and I'm glad we hammered that out, because that's a really good question. Again, you could write a novel on it, but we won't do that. The next question is for Kevin specifically, and it was something along the lines of, hey, I live in Chicago. What do you think about Iowa being the team that Chicago follows the most, or something like that? And how are the fans in Chicago related to the Hawkeyes?
Yeah. Obviously, there's
Are you messing with your mic?
fans here.
Am I what?
Are you messing with your mic?
No, it's laying right here on the table.
Okay, just kidding. Proceed, Kevin.
Oh, we got such a shitty operation going here, boys.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, go to our anchor page. Donate now, please. Chicago, yeah, ton of Hawkeyes here. Absolutely love it. There's like at least 3 Hawkeye bars in downtown Chicago. It's honestly between Iowa and Notre Dame as being like the 2 most popular teams, in my opinion. But no, like, one of the things I love about playing at Northwestern is, even though it's a shitty field and a shitty locker room, there's as many Hawkeye fans there as there's Northwestern fans. And that is
or more.
Yeah. And that is one thing that's awesome to see, is to go into an opponent's stadium and have more of your fans there than theirs. Like, there's nothing better than that. And you know what? We love you Hawkeye fans for it, and it's just an awesome feeling.
It's incredible. The next one, and this is one that we had a little fun with last night on the first recording. Which current guy is a prime candidate for joining the podcast after this year on the team? Current guy. And I think the one that would be the most fitting for the podcast to come on and be a 4th host on a consistent basis would be Brady Ross, but he's not done next year. And so what we came up with was, and you know, you'd never want to give him credit, because
no, we're not happy.
I don't even think you should mention his name, because right now, at this point, if he's listening, he knows who he is, but I don't want to even give him the satisfaction of giving him airtime right now, because it's just going to inflate his ugly head even more.
You know, the fans, they want to know. So we're not happy about it, but we're going to have to nominate Jake Gervais. He's the walk-on, blah, 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 blah. Got a scholarship, captain, whatever.
Savage back.
For those of you who don't know, a Savage back is a walk-on who plays all 4 special teams. I was the original Savage back is Travis Perry. I took over after him, passed it along to Jake, and now it is John Milani. John Milani is the lone savage back now. So shout out to John Milani. But yes,
Yeah, but
Jake Gervais is our guy who'd probably be joining.
yeah, so
I'm
that's who
still
we came
sticking
up
with Brady Ross. I can't even give Jake the credit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be incredible to have both on, but
We can't really have current
And that-
players, and we definitely can't have coaches. Like some people ask, like, "Yeah, is Kirk Ferentz going to come on?" Like, no.
no, we're not having Coach Ferentz on. I honestly, I'd be, I no.
Maybe one of these days, Coach Ferentz will listen to an episode.
I
But
hope
as far as
10
coming,
minutes.
to it, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Huh. Heard you guys got a little podcast going, huh? What's tell us about?
I can just imagine the next. I'm a little worried because I know that inside the program, obviously Marty, our boy, he's been listening to it. I know that some of the guys listen to it. I don't know who listens to it. KB on Twitter, Coach Kelvin Bell, he said he was going to have to check it out. So it worries me a little bit because I know that they all, when the first time that they heard that I was a part of starting a podcast, like in their head, they immediately thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. Just because I'm a prime target to just get shit about everything I do. I have a loud mouth, and that's always the way it was.
I know the GAs, they like it. So
yeah, I mean, that's not to say Jake Gervais will be on as a thing, or Brady Ross will be, but for sure after those guys' career, they'll at least come on once because I'd love to have both those guys on. But yeah, that's probably our pick if we're gonna have one more guy come on and do the podcast with us. And that was from Mike Condon. The next question was from Mark. I don't know how to say his last name. Dalwinther. Game of horse between me, Kevin, and Drake was the question. Who wins? And honestly, I have no idea.
I honestly don't know either.
Kluver, I think I'm gonna have to give it to you. You have the most experience on a basketball court. I would say me, but I can't even jump anymore, so I can't beat you guys with dunks because
So
all my
how
dunks would
would
just
you
be
say you?
one-handed. No, I said I can't say me.
You can't say me.
Yeah, so I would have to go with Kluver and saying
I'll say
he
this.
has the most
I'll
skill.
say this. We're all not good.
I haven't picked up basketball in at least 2 years.
The last time here, I'll say this. The last time that I legitimately shot hoops for like 20 to 30 minutes was when we got recognized in the 2016 season, or no, the 20. We went to the Iowa basketball game and got recognized with our trophies during a halftime of an Iowa basketball game. And before we went on, we were in the practice court messing around, and me and Kevin were lining up from Steph Curry range with a couple guys rebounding.
They were 28.5-inch basketballs too.
They were women's?
Yeah, they were women's balls. I remember that.
Well, for a second, we would get on a run and we would get a little hot. But other than that, we are not the guys who you would choose to be the basketball team of football players.
Yeah, much less like if I can't even imagine people wanting to listen to this podcast. There is no one in the world who would want to watch the three of us play horse.
No,
nope, not at all.
Drake used to be able to dunk. I used to have a really good video of Drake dunking at Bo Bauer's house, but I don't think I have that anymore. And
I know that I can't jump that high anymore.
He definitely doesn't have those ups anymore. So again, washed up. That's what it is. And then the last question before we move on to the Penn State game and wrap this up is best locker room story. And I have one that I can tell a little bit. I'm not going to go into such detail because last night when I told the story on the first recording of this, it was kind of like whatever. It's more, I'll just tell about it a little bit. If you guys come up with something, go for it. We'll preface this with most of the really good, entertaining locker room stories can't be told because either something was said or done that is just too sensitive. And we love you guys a lot, but we love our teammates, our former teammates more. And we can't just be up on here throwing people under the bus because if we were, then all those people who are like scared about me doing a podcast, then all their stuff would be it would be confirmed. And so we're not going to do that. But I have a funny one about Dean Soponitis. Many of you might not remember who Dean is or Dean was. He was a defensive lineman. I don't even know much about his background. All I know is that when we came in our first year, he was one of the most interesting people on the team.
And one of the most beloved too.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loved Dean. He was just a very free-spirited a guy. He had a bit of a funny temper where he would just like get going and no one could stop him. He was, honestly, for what he looked like, he was pretty like gifted physically. Maybe not. I mean, there's obviously more people gifted than him, but like you would never expect D lineman if you just saw him on the street either, I don't think. He's just a big dude, like to just walk around. He kind of looked like just some guy that didn't have a lot going on. Anyway, there was one day where the specialist, this is way back when we didn't have the new complex, the Hanson building. We were in the Jacobson building. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jacobson building, the old complex. And so there's a lot less room in the Jacobson building. The players' lounge, which was hardly a lounge, it was just a couple couches and a TV, and a couple study computers compared to what we have now. It sat right outside the locker room, the player locker room. And back then, the way it worked was we had practice in the afternoon, and what would happen was we start with special teams meeting, and then everybody would go off to the position meetings. Well, the specialist, up until this past year, the specialist never had a coach. In 5 years, did not have a special teams coach. Coach Woods took over and is doing a phenomenal job now. But we were essentially our own coaches. We watched our own film, took our own notes, made our own adjustments, all that stuff. And so we were done for the day. It took us. We might not have done anything for in the previous practice. We had nothing to watch, which is a very common occurrence for the specialists. And so we would get to hang out in the lounge in between that special teams meeting and practice, essentially, when we had to get ready for practice. And so I get done in the locker room after the special teams meeting. Everybody starts going to their position meetings, and I walk out of the locker room to go into the lounge, and there's Dean sitting on the computer chair that everybody else sits in to do their homework and look up stuff on the internet, butt naked. He's wearing there's no towel. He has one hand over his crotch to cover himself, and the other hand on the mouse. And he's on his student landing page trying to find out something for a class. And I said, Dean, why are you naked and what are you doing? I mean, there's windows. People are walking by. Like nurses from the hospital are like walking to their afternoon shift. Like he's sitting there butt ass naked. And I said, Dean, what are you doing and why are you naked? Shouldn't you be in position meetings right now? He turned at me dead ass, just a stone cold look in his eyes, and goes, "Oh, we have position meetings?" I was just like, okay, and I didn't say much because again I was real young, and it's just like, but stuff like that happens makes me miss Iowa football. I mean, not seeing Dean naked, but just funny stories like that. That was a funnier one from earlier in my career. I don't know if you guys have anything or not.
Yeah, like you said earlier, the best ones we really can't tell. Man, but the locker room stories, those are some of the best times you have in your career. I mean,
Right.
I don't know, Drake,
right.
you got one?
I mean, I've got not necessarily a specific story, but for those of you that don't know, there is an equipment staff member named Max Safranco, and he is by far one of the player favorites. Everybody loves him, and he is just kind of a staple to the environment in the Iowa football complex. And Max is very passionate about his job, and he hates fun, I guess is the way I would put it. Is Max is
way to put it.
anti-fun dude. So don't try and have fun around Max because he will try and rip you up. And so I always loved watching the players go up and act like they were ordering McDonald's meals from the equipment staff window and having him jump out the window and
Take his
chase
shirt
after
off.
him. Yeah, take his shirt off, screaming down the hallway as he chased the players. And I thought those were some of the most fun moments ever because, both the player and Max were really enjoying it. And it made for a very fun environment and just kind of a nice and relaxed time.
Yeah. That'll do it for the Q&A. At first I thought this was going to be a short episode because we're just because of the circumstance, but now we're at 55 minutes and we still have to talk about Penn State. Penn State, Nittany Lions, they are ranked 17th. The Hawkeyes are ranked 18th, and the Hawkeyes are going into Happy Valley to play a afternoon time slot game on Saturday versus Penn State. It's going to be a barn burner. Like we said earlier, the Hawks are rolling. Penn State, not so much rolling.
A little shaky the last couple of weeks.
A little shaky. Almost, I mean, we handled Indiana pretty well. Indiana goes to Penn State last week, almost pulls out a win.
Indiana.
They went to Indiana. Well, regardless, Penn State almost dropped the ball versus them last weekend. Yeah, it's going to be a good game. As Hawk fans, I know on Twitter a lot of you are like, "Oh, this is the season right here." Like, if we can just beat Penn State, then all we have to hope for is Wisconsin to lose one more game, and we're in the Big Ten championship. I promise you, it's not that easy, especially with how we talked about Purdue earlier. Wisconsin still has to lose, which saw right before we jumped on here that Hornibrook might not play this weekend versus Northwestern because of a concussion.
Yeah, he's
so that means that they win by a lot.
Make that big a difference.
Yeah,
Drake said so. That means they'll win by a lot.
Yeah, if Wisconsin is without Hornibrook, that means that they're probably like 21-point favorites.
Hammer Wisconsin.
As bad as he used to be, of course he puts together the game he did versus us this year. Makes me puke.
But
anyway,
so Penn State is favorited, right? They're
up to
several point favorite.
Yeah, it's about a touchdown favorite right now.
So that is kind of silly to me because when you think about it, Penn State is not having the greatest of years, and the past several weeks they have looked very vulnerable. Hawkeyes are coming in on a roll. Yes, it's at Penn State. Yes, we know how tough of an environment it is to play at Penn State, but when the team isn't hot, the teeth are out of the bear a little bit, if I do say. And so I don't know how we could possibly be a touchdown underdog to a team that's not really rolling on a day where it's going to be a little bit cold with rain, and we have a great run defense. We have a very strong running game, and all these factors. Personally, I'm going to try and put in a nice little bet on the Hawks straight up, much less with 7 points. So if I'm a Hawk fan and a gambling man, which I fit both categories, I might say hammer the money line because I've got all the faith in the Hawks. I mean, if you're giving me 7 points, what's my life worth? Because I'll get that from the bank. And if the Hawks don't cover, I mean, if the Hawks don't win, I'm going to be in like a deep, dark, blacked out depression. But if the Hawks don't even cover, then I don't even know if it's really worth living. So, I mean, sure, I'll put my life on this one for the Hawks to cover.
I'm just going to go, buddy. Again, we encourage you to go see your psychologist. We love you, buddy. I'm going to take my happy-go-lucky take on the game this week. Hawkeyes rolling. Penn State looking faulty. Indiana ran 99 plays against Penn State last week. Their defense is going to be tired as shit. They lost their starting safety for the first half with a targeting call. Only thing Penn State's got going for them is it's in Happy Valley. hard place to play, but I think the conditions favor the Hawks. That being said, hammer the Hawks. Hammer the Hawks.
Hawks by 1,000,000, baby.
Hawks by 1,000,000. Yeah, and my take on it is I agree. The spread is I would bet the Hawks on the spread for sure. Again, the Hawks could still cover and lose. I was kind of at first my gut was telling me that was going to be the case. That the Penn State was going to win by 3 or so, but and that the Hawks would still cover. But man, I'm starting to be convinced on my own and by other people. I think the Hawks win this one, and I think they control it.
It's about time you came around. That's a pretty bullshit thing to say.
It's not that I don't trust the Hawks. It's just I think that people start to boohoo Penn State a little bit, and then all of a sudden they come back and maybe have a game where they show, that they're not just a complete trash. But I'm going to take the Hawks.
They're not nearly what the team they were last year.
Not even close, for sure. Because their man is up in New York terrorizing people. Not really, though, because he's the only player that they have on the Giants. But
he is having one insane rookie season.
Yeah, he's doing well, and I'm glad that the Hawks don't have to play him in 2 days. You heard it here. That's 4 weeks in a row where we tell you to hammer the Hawks. We're 3-0. I just, at this point, you should probably, we're not sponsored. If we were, like Pat McAfee, I would go to mybookie.ag and I'd make an account and I'd throw something down on the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's all I have to say. We're a little past an hour. Hopefully, we can get this one out to you without any technical difficulties. We'll be back next week to talk about the Penn State game and some other stuff. That's it. We hope you have a good one. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.